David R. here. Today I'm going to talk to you about this book, A Day in Prison by John Fuller and Holly Lorincz, or something like that. These are the authors. See that guy right there? And that lady right there. This book is for first-timers, people who've never been in prison before, and this is their first time. Or maybe even people who've been to jail but just never been to prison. Jail and prison are a little different. Now I want to start by going through the table of contents in part 1. Your day behind bars. 5 a.m. Waking up in a cell. 6 a.m. The cafeteria. 7 a.m. The shower and laundry. 8 a.m. Work. 2 p.m. Exercise. 3 p.m. Visitation, phone calls. 4 p.m. Classes, self-help groups, Bible studies, counseling. 6 p.m. The commissary. 7 p.m. Socializing. 8 p.m. Sleeping in a cell. As you can see, there's other parts of this book, like chapter 11, 12, and 13, with juvenile, inmate, families, and good behavior and bad behavior. There's also a typical daily schedule at a medium security facility. I'll just go over that briefly. For instance, cell block A, 5 a.m., optional morning prayer. 5:30, lights on. 6, breakfast. 7, exercise, morning prayer, reading. 7:30, shower. 8, work. 11, lunch. 12 p.m., work. 2, exercise, shower, laundry. 3, visitation, self-help group or college class. 4, head count. 4:30, dinner. 5, more education or therapy opportunities. 6, use phone, socialize, watch TV. 9, locked back in cell. Read, write. The authors say that a minute is like an hour in prison, or an hour is like a day. You have to be patient, especially if you're facing 10 years behind bars or longer. You have to work out a long-term plan. I'm going to talk to you about processing a new convict now. These are the usual steps taken once you are found guilty and become state property. 1, you will be housed in the municipal county jail where the crime was committed. You will wait for a transfer to a correctional institution, the security level to be determined by your criminal history, and the sentencing guidelines. This generally takes a month, but can take longer. 2, you will likely then be taken to a transfer facility, where you will be held until the next bus, van, or airplane is available for transport. Your intake papers will be prepared during this time. You may be at a transfer facility or a holding unit for up to 6 months, maybe longer, waiting for your permanent placement. Prisoners at this stage of the process are disinfected, inspected thoroughly for contraband, this includes a cavity search, and issued orange uniforms. 3, you will be assigned and transferred to a housing unit or block in a minimum, medium, or maximum security facility anywhere in the United States where there is a space. The Federal Bureau of Prisons can transfer you to another prison at any time due to disciplinary infractions, overcrowding, or change in your custody status. Prisoners at this stage are again disinfected, inspected thoroughly for contraband, and issued clothes to match the color of the rest of the convict population in that facility, usually beige or dark green. Prison jobs are usually assigned at this time, so you will be physically and mentally evaluated. 4, 6 months prior to your release date, you will be considered for a halfway house placement to finish out your time. Sometimes you may be offered limited counseling for addiction or work rehabilitation. You will be given a set of clothes, a bus ticket, an inmate identification card, and a social security card upon release. After reading this book, there really aren't any surprises. There are variations, I guess, for different prisons, but for the most part, you won't be surprised. The next part I want to go into is the entry checklist. You are allowed to enter a federal prison with only a few possessions. A 2-day supply of medication in its original container. Plain wedding band. No stones or intricate markings. Earrings, females only. No stones, with a declared value of less than $100. Medical or orthopedic devices must be pre-approved by the prison. Legal documents. Religious items, as long as they do not present a threat to the security of the institution. Religious medallions and chains must have a declared value of less than $100, and prescription glasses. You'll also get what's called a fish kit. This consists of a blanket, 2 sheets, 4 pairs of underwear, 2 t-shirts, pants, socks, pair of shoes, a winter coat, 2 rolls of toilet paper, 1 single blade Bic razor, and a cheap bar of soap. And finally, you'll want to be aware of the 10 prison commandments. Respect your fellow inmates. Do not trust your fellow inmates. Respect the staff. Do not stare. Mind your own business. Do not steal. Do not snitch. Do not use drugs. Do not gamble. Avoid prison gangs. On page 109 is a little bit better and more detailed description of what to do and what not to do. For instance, no ratting. Basically, no snitching. Snitches get stitches and thrown into ditches or something like that. Bad things happen to snitches. In terms of prison hierarchies, snitches are down there with the child molesters. They're in a very bad place. They get tortured, raped, killed. Anything goes with a snitch or a child molester. Keep your word. Prisoners have a lot of time on their hands, and they will remember if you promise something. And if you don't fulfill that promise, things could happen. Be respectful. Like, don't cut in line. Don't stink up the bathroom. Don't have a messy cell. Things like that. Don't be chatty. Talking can get you into trouble, especially in prison. There's a lot of gossip that goes around. And if you are talking about crimes that have gone unsolved, crimes that you committed, somebody may rat you out so they could get a lighter sentence. It happens all the time. Don't ask people about themselves. Remember, mind your own business. Don't ask them what they're in there for. Don't offer up information about yourself like, hey, I'm in here for this. What are you in there for? You don't want to do that. Talk about sports. Talk about the weather. Don't argue. Arguments can lead to violence. Stay away from crazies. There's a lot of mentally ill people in prison these days. So beware. Keep your face neutral. Don't cry. Never cry. It makes you look weak. It makes you stand out as a target. You don't want to be a target. No one is to be trusted. Nobody. Nobody has your back. Like the X-Files meme, trust no one. Your cellie is not your friend. Remember that. If someone buddies up with you or offers you protection, they have ulterior motives. And usually those motives are sexual or they want to extort money from you. Don't accept gifts from inmates. Well, you don't want to owe inmates anything. You don't accept it. Even if it's very tiny, don't accept it. Even if it's real cheap, don't accept it. You don't want to owe people. You have to pay those people back. And a lot of times, it's sexual favors that you have to give them. Your education is your responsibility. Read. Read lots of books. Read as many books as you possibly can. Go to the prison library, the prison law library, wherever you can find books. Sign up for a class. If there's classes available, sometimes that may not be easy, but sign up for whatever they have. Create a schedule for yourself. Make goals that you accomplish every week. Have something going on. And be strong mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. Be self-reliant. Don't rely on others. Believe me, that can lead to trouble. Don't turn to guards for protection, and don't be seen talking to guards, because people may label you as a snitch. Remember, you don't want to be labeled as a snitch. It's a bad place to be. Ignore racial slurs, mocking. Try to ignore it the best you can. You may have to fight. It's hard to say, but try not to get in one. He says, don't steal. When the author was at Fort Dix prison, he witnessed a beatdown. The prisoners took their cans of tuna and put them in socks and beat down a thief. It's got to be painful. I think in the military they use soap for that. He says to have a side hustle, like baking cookies or cutting hair. Could be a variety of things. Make a little money on the side. Get some sun each day. Vitamin D comes from the sun, or a supplement, and it will keep you from being depressed. Depression can lead to suicide. You don't want to do that. And finally, start a journal. Write down your thoughts and your feelings. The author says use code names and change descriptions of inmates. You don't want somebody finding it and saying, hey, you just said this about me? Bam. I want to show you something that just occurred recently. This Antifa thug, or terrorist, was arrested. And he's white. He's probably not that big. And he has probably never even been to jail before. This guy is going to prison for 6 years. Maybe on good behavior, he might get out in 4 or 5, I don't know. But how do you think this guy is going to do in prison? I think he's not going to do well. I think he's going to have to go to protective custody. Although I don't think he's a criminal, I'm just curious, how do you think this guy would do in prison? He's 22 years old, he's white, he's very emotional about learning the facts of World War II. I don't think he would make it very far. I mean, look at him. He doesn't have much muscle. He's very emotional. And I don't know if he has any street fighting skills. He may. I'm doubtful he has a criminal record, but then again, he might have that too. This guy appears to be weak. Maybe someday he will become strong if he lifts weights and stops taking everything so seriously. Back to the video. So anyway, there's a lot of things I could have probably covered in this book here, but every prison is going to be different, and every prisoner is going to experience prison differently. This book will give you a pretty good idea as to what's going on. I suggest reading it for yourself, but it's not exact, it's not perfect. And if you want to read about prison some more, here's an excellent book. This one is educational, entertaining. This is my favorite, actually. Here's another one. Behind Bars. Surviving Prison. Very good one. And if you want to read about a lifer, Life in Prison, Stanley Tukey Williams, another good one. Well, anyway, that's all I got. Talk to you later. Bye. This reminds me of Notorious B.I.G.'s 10 crack commandments. So I'm going to digress for a moment and read those to you. 1, never let no one know how much dough you hold. 2, never let them know your next move. 3, never trust nobody. 4, never get high on your own supply. 5, never sell no crack where you rest at. 6, that goddamn credit? Debt it. Money up front always. 7, keep your family and business completely separated. 8, never keep no weight on you. 9, if you ain't getting bagged, stay the fuck from the police. I think you should always stay away from the cops. Like it says on this website, think about it like this. Don't be seen with the enemy. 10, a strong word called consignment. If you ain't got the clientele, say hell no.